Golden, crispy, and iconic. McDonald's fries aren't just a snack, they're a cultural phenomenon. But behind all the salt, the crunch, and the sizzle lies a $10 million secret. This is the story of how the world's most beloved fry went from being delicious to being a highly engineered masterpiece that changed the very shape of the world. To tell this story, we've got to go back in time and meet Ray Kroc. Let me set the scene. We're in America. No, not that America. Not the highway monstrosity with these skyscraper tall fast food signs. That comes much later. That comes after this story. We're in 1950s America, where the American dream is alive and well, where a single income 9-to-5 job gets you a white picket fence house, a car, and sends your kids to college. An America where life was good. Along comes Ray Kroc, milkshake machine salesman and budding entrepreneur. It's 1954 and Ray is fascinated by a small burger stand in San Bernardino, California that's run by the McDonald's brothers. This small burger stand is his biggest customer, ordering 8 milkshake machines per location. So naturally, Ray traveled to San Bernardino to figure out how they were selling so many milkshakes. While there, Ray finds that the burger stand has a deal for fries and a milkshake for 30 cents, advertising it as the perfect summertime snack. Ray decides he has to try the famous fries and milkshake and see what all the fuss is about. In a single bite, he's sold, and the rest becomes history. Kroc signs a franchise deal with the McDonald's brothers the very next week, and in 1955 he opens up his first McDonald's location in Des Plaines, Illinois. The McDonald's brothers were skeptical about maintaining their quality while building out a national brand, and so Kroc offered to take over all franchising opportunities nationally and manage them himself. And by partnering with real estate mogul Sonberg, they came up with a plan to own all the land that McDonald's franchises would be built on, requiring the franchisees to pay rent back into the corporation. By managing all these new locations and the franchising rights and the Realty Corporation, Kroc had managed to grow the McDonald's Corporation's revenue to $56 million a year before 1960. But he still didn't own the business, or the naming rights, or any of the original 8 locations that the McDonald's brothers owned. In 1961, he partnered with a number of investors to change that. He bought out the McDonald's brothers for $2.7 million, which is today equivalent to $28.5 million. And in 1965, he made himself the CEO of McDonald's. But why did Ray buy McDonald's? McDonald's wasn't a national brand yet. Why didn't he take $10 million and start his own burger stand? It would have been easy to start a new stand selling burgers and milkshakes. It's not like it's a complicated recipe. Kroc didn't see burgers and milkshakes. What he saw was an empire. And he believed that there was only one item on that menu that could turn McDonald's into the household name it is today. It's not the beloved Big Mac or the humble hamburger. It's the fries. Ray believed that the preparation of the fries was sacrosanct. After all, there was a reason that the golden arches were initially modeled after the fries. In the first few years after taking over McDonald's, Ray perfected the fry recipe. He even invented a new type of deep fryer that could take the temperature of the oil and adjust the cooking time to get the perfect fry. He ended up patenting this formula, calling it Formula 47. You see, most diners at the time didn't serve fries as we know them today. They were large, thick-cut potatoes, much more similar to a potato wedge than the fast food French fry. They were sold as a side dish to a large dinner. They were an afterthought or an add-on. Kroc's fries, on the other hand, they were thin cut, they were fried in beef tallow, and cooked at a higher temperature to keep the outside crisp, the inside soft and fluffy. This is the popular fast food fry as we know it today. And it may seem obvious in retrospect, but it was Kroc who put the fry on the map in that way. It was delicious, it was filling, it was the perfect snack. In fact, Kroc said that fries weren't just a food, they would be his legacy. And he was right. For the first 30 years after Kroc took over, their fries accounted for more than 40% of their profit, fueling the company's growth. But that's because in the 1950s, fries were made to be eaten fresh and straight to the customer, hot, crispy, and ready to eat, from fryer to table in minutes. But of course, America is always changing. By the 1980s, Americans weren't stopping to eat. In America's emerging culture of hustle and bustle, they were eating on the run. And as that culture shifted, we swapped out drive-ins for drive-thrus. And the fries that were cooked for that dine-in customer just didn't hold up anymore. A fry that was designed to be eaten in 3 to 5 minutes fresh at the table didn't last 10 to 15 minutes in a drive-through bag. Kroc found his empire in jeopardy because he could no longer produce the same magic experience that his customers had come to expect in this new style of fast casual dining. And so for the first time ever, Kroc was forced to change the recipe of the fries that he'd considered sacred. He partnered with the company Lamb Weston, the largest processors of potatoes in the US. And together they developed a chemical coating they referred to as the stealth fry, which was designed to seal in fat and keep the fry crispy and tasty longer. It worked, but it came at a cost. The fries lasted longer, but they weren't quite as magical. This change actually becomes a major tipping point in the US food industry, as we shifted from natural ingredients lists to hard-to-pronounce chemical names on the back of our food. That all started here as we tried to engineer the perfect food product. Kroc decided that he had to make this trade-off. The fries would taste worse, but they could still be competitive at drive-thrus. To make the fries taste slightly worse, but to make them more durable. Too durable, in fact. To this day, McDonald's still uses Lamb Weston and a modern version of the stealth fry. And that's the reason we've seen all these internet memes of McDonald's fries sitting on a shelf, not decaying. I bought these fries last week as a prop and got delayed in filming, and they still look like McDonald's fries. This was the first time that McDonald's made their fries worse on purpose, but it wasn't the biggest or most interesting change. For that, we need to meet the next character in our story, a gentleman by the name of Phil Sokoloff. Phil Sokoloff is a self-made millionaire from Omaha, Nebraska, and founder of the Phillips Manufacturing Company, which to this day is still one of the largest players in drywall installation in America. Sokoloff was, to put it lightly, an avid food lover. Oh, yeah. Years earlier in 1966, Sokoloff had suffered a major heart attack. Like many modern-day millionaires, Sokoloff took it on himself to do half-baked research on a complex medical topic, draw incorrect conclusions, and then spend his own fortune trying to change public opinion. He concluded that high-fat foods were the leading cause of cardiovascular disease among Americans, which is kind of a factor, but not in the way that he saw it. In fact, he deemed that beef fat and tropical oils, which consisted of coconut oil and palm oil, were bad fats, and that maize-based vegetable oils and soy oils were healthier for you somehow, which I'm sure had nothing to do with Nebraska being a leading producer of corn and soybeans, and Sokoloff being a major investor in both the vegetable oil producer, Archer Daniels Midland's company, and soybean company, Central Soya, right? But regardless of his intentions, Sokoloff poured his fortune into this fight. And he's the primary driver behind the rise of vegetable oil and seed oil and margarine-based products in America. In the 1980s, he founded the National Heart Savers Association, which put out most of the spotty research we know about good fats versus bad fats. His aggressive advertising boycotts, they caused major brands like Pillsbury and Quaker Oats and Keebler and Pepperidge Farms to move away from beef tallow and tropical oils to seed oils. And starting in 1983, he set his sights on McDonald's. He bought full-page ads in the largest newspapers in the country. He paid for 10,000 US federal employees to get their cholesterol tested and surveyed them on how often they ate at McDonald's, publishing those results. Bought a $2.5 million Super Bowl commercial, as well as flashy ad campaigns on the Times Square bulletin boards, showing what suspiciously looked like McDonald's fries, while displaying the message, "Cut fat intake, live longer." In 1990, with mounting public pressure from ad smear campaigns and emerging trends of Americans focused on a low-fat lifestyle, McDonald's knew they had to make a change. Enter the 1990s. Time of the Tamagotchi and the Game Boy and the really creepy Furby that talked to you. Pogs and the dial-up internet and slap bracelets. An era we refer to as the TV industrial complex, where as long as you stood out, you were brighter, more colorful, louder in your commercials. You could capture the imagination of children anywhere and sell anything. And those clever folks over at McDonald's? Yeah. They had some plans. In the 1990s, McDonald's had two plans. First, leverage the TV industrial complex to advertise to children. Because children, quite famously, don't think a lot about heart disease. They don't care. Woo-hoo! Converted their stores to have McDonald's playlands and colorful artwork, invested in having the latest gaming consoles in each restaurant, dedicated kids' parties rooms, and a team dedicated to making sure that whatever the most popular toy of the season was, there was a mini version of that in a Happy Meal. McDonald's wanted you to forget that it was a place that sold hamburgers. It wanted you to forget the decades of making those beef tallow fries their identity. It wanted you to know it was a place for happiness, memories, and good times. It cared about you and your family. Those golden arches? No. Those aren't French fries. Those are smiles. Obviously. Pay no attention to the deep fryer behind the curtain. Strategy worked, at least until the end of the TV industrial complex. It also helped to distract from one of the most challenging time periods in McDonald's history, because their second plan was to simply change the beef tallow for vegetable oil. It didn't work. The fries were okay, but the experience and the aftertaste, it left customers pretty disappointed compared to the old beef tallow fries. These fries never even made it out of testing. Luckily for McDonald's, it was time to meet the third character in our story. Enter Howard Moskowitz, father of modern food engineering. Howard Moskowitz is a psychoanalyst that helped major food companies design the perfectly engaging food. He studied everything from taste to sound to smell. He came up with the concept of mouthfeel, which sounds super gross, but it's the texture experience when you're eating a food. He also came up with what is now one of the most famous concepts in food engineering called a bliss point, where he literally looked at the reward and satisfaction centers of the brain to decide how fulfilled people were by a product. He's the person you have to thank for cherry and vanilla flavors of pop, the reason bags of chips have such a crinkly and familiar sound. He turned Prego pasta sauce into the #1 spaghetti sauce in America by figuring out the right amount of salt, fat, and sugar to add to activate the bliss point without changing the flavor. Now, while the bulk of his celebrated work takes place in the 2000s, Moskowitz was writing research as far back as the 70s that deeply inspired food engineering, and it led to a boom in food experience optimization. Some of these key ideas were craveability and bliss point dissolve deception, which were concepts that suggested if a product dissolved right before peak bliss, you could leave a customer wanting more. And if a product dissolved right before a bad aftertaste, you could avoid that negative impact. The brain wouldn't process it in the same way. It wouldn't remember a negative experience. Ever notice how cheese puffs dissolve so quickly? Yeah, Moskowitz. McDonald's, working with their own optimization lab, went down this path. The new McDonald's French fry was lighter and fluffier and saltier. It was more airy. It had two goals. One, to make you think it was light and fluffy, and therefore could not be a fatty food. And two, to dissolve just fast enough that you don't notice the change in flavor profile. So the new fries were worse, but then something kind of strange happened. Even when customer surveys and focus groups were saying the new fries didn't taste as good, they were selling more of them. People weren't buying them as a snack anymore. They were adding them onto meals as a cross-sell. They were also buying larger sizes than before. New fries, while worse tasting, were more craveable, more addicting, and felt like you could eat them endlessly. McDonald's doubled down on this. It required every cashier to ask 2 questions. First, would you like fries with that? And second, would you like to supersize your combo? Which lasted at least until that Morgan Spurlock documentary, Supersize Me, and then quickly supersize just became large or extra large depending on location. Totally unrelated, I'm sure. But it worked. McDonald's same-store sales skyrocketed. 90s led to more than 60% revenue growth for the company, and a surging demand of new franchise locations. And 65% of their profit came from that little French fry. In fact, when you look at all the money that McDonald's has ever made from food product, the largest single slice of that is from fries. And that's why no other burger chain could compete. They were always trying to make the best burger instead of slightly worse fries. If you look at a graph of fast food locations over time, you see the dominance of McDonald's with more than 3 times the franchise locations of its next closest burger competitor. In a large part, that's driven by the fry. It's a fry that both lasts longer and dissolves quicker than other fries. It's a fry that leaves you wanting more. It's a fry so durable that while brands like Burger King started reducing the number of drive-thru locations they have, McDonald's actively lobbied U.S. districts to not add sidewalks to locations where they had popular drive-thrus because they know when you are in the car, their fries provide a better experience than anyone else. That little French fry built an empire, but it also changed the walkability of U.S. cities. Not because some scientist at a lab at McDonald's made the tastiest fry ever or the most filling, but because twice in their history, McDonald's purposefully chose to make their fries worse.